The Boomer Sooners' high-powered offense is going to see the most physical defense they've encountered all season as the Georgia Bulldogs travel to Pasadena, California.
Yeah, and this is a game that's going to be really interesting to watch, the second of our two playoff matchups so far this year. It's one of the top defenses in the country versus the top offense in the country. Who's going to come out on top? We're going to tell you right now.
Defense wins championships. I'll start with that. At least it earned Georgia the SEC championship. Will they be able to take it all the way, though? That remains to be seen, but Oklahoma might not know what hit them when this team comes out aggressive and ready to shut down the Sooner offense. They only give up 270 yards a game, only 158 of those come through the air. So this secondary is going to be challenged by the Oklahoma offense, but they're pretty strong. They also have a solid ground attack, as Nick Chubb and Sony Michel are dominating on the offensive side, wearing out their opposing defenses, something Oklahoma really doesn't emphasize. And avenged. They were able to avenge their only loss on the season in the championship, beating Auburn. I think they're on a roll, and we could see that this weekend.
Yeah, but we've seen Oklahoma do this before. They go into a matchup against another top defense, TCU, who's a defense built to stop a team like Oklahoma, Iowa State, who's very similar. Both of those teams have top defenses in the nation, and Oklahoma just completely ate them up. Oklahoma put up 31 against Iowa State and then just completely dominated TCU in the championship game for the second time this season. And they're clutch. When they need to, in close games, Baker Mayfield just has that little extra, whatever you want to call it, that wills his team to win time in and time out. Doesn't matter who they're playing, doesn't matter what defense they're playing. He finds a way to win every single time that he has the ball. If you give him the ball late in the game with a chance to win the game, there's a good chance he's going to come up with a game-winning drive in some form or fashion. And they stay on the gas. They're one of the best teams at putting the throttle down, stepping on the opposing team's throat, and not letting them get up. When they have a lead early in games, they're able to just completely dominate and just roll and keep rolling throughout the rest of the game. And they have a pretty good schedule, especially for a Big 12 team. They've played TCU twice, which is a top 10 team. They've played Oklahoma State, which was a top 15 team at the time, and West Virginia, who was a top 20 team at the time. They have a surprisingly good schedule, especially compared to years past. They also beat Ohio State early in the year. They completely destroyed them and blew them out of the water in Columbus, which is one of the most impressive wins I personally have seen in a long time.
One conference they don't account for on that schedule is the SEC. And offense may get you pretty far in the Big 12, but it won't against most SEC teams. I was honestly surprised when I saw that they've played an SEC team every season in the last 5 years and have won 4 out of 5 times. So will it be an issue for them? It's all been postseason. Most of them have been postseason play, and they've been able to dominate. But I think this Georgia team is better than most SEC teams we've seen in the past couple years. And they grind out games. Similarly to years past, Oklahoma has struggled in games where the other team has been able to limit their offensive production. Iowa State and Texas were their 2 closest games of the year, and they also boast 2 of the better defenses they played all year.
And in a game, especially one of the college football playoff games, and another huge game like this, quarterback play is extremely important, and that's not something that Georgia's been very strong with. Jacob Fromm, he's a true freshman. He doesn't have any experience in any postseason play so far. The extra scouting that goes into it, the extra practice, everything else that goes into it leading up to it, and then actually getting there on that stage, national television, it's not something he's used to. The closest thing he's had was the Georgia-Florida game earlier this year. And when you're going up a quarterback in an offense like Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma, who has the postseason experience, who's been there before, who has everything they need to has done everything they need to do to win in situations like that before. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Fromm to really excel in a game like this. And just how about a touchdown, Georgia? You don't give up any on defense, and you don't score very many on offense. It's been pretty boring, unless you're a fan of defense, like I know a lot of us are. But if you're a fan of offense, Georgia's definitely not the team to watch. Their offense has struggled a lot this year. They're very slow, and they play the field position battle. And against a big play, explosive offense like Oklahoma, field position isn't as important as it is in the SEC.
But they do have Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, who are the 2 faster people on this team. They look fast on TV, but if you've ever seen them in person, they're even faster. It's incredible. It's even crazier. They wear out and run all over the defenses they played, combining for 2,100 yards and 26 touchdowns this season. It's going to be up to these guys to find as many holes as they can and break through the D-line of Oklahoma, because if this game becomes a shootout, like Griffin said, they may not be able to hold their own.
Your player has to be Baker Mayfield. You have to watch Baker Mayfield. Whatever he's doing, you have to pay attention to it. He won the Heisman a couple weeks ago. He's one of the best players in the entire country. He's arguably the best quarterback we've seen in college football in a long time. He's a projected first-round draft pick, and he's done everything he needs to do before to win games like this.
I'm going to favor Georgia in this game. I know it may seem I'm biased with the SEC, but they have a strong defense, and I think it is going to kind of create some issues for Oklahoma in the beginning. And if Georgia can get on the board early and maintain that defensive potential they have, Oklahoma could, see some issues there. I think the Georgia secondary will be able to hold its own.
Yeah, and one of the things that Georgia's struggled with on defense is their secondary. They're a great secondary, but they're definitely not one of the better secondaries in the country. And Baker Mayfield has taken advantage of elite secondaries before. He just has, I don't know what to call it, he's just that person this year, and it doesn't seem like he can do any wrong. I have a feeling he's going to find a way to squeak out a close win in the end and just make a couple miraculous plays that make everyone just shake their head and say there's no defense for that.
If you like this week's episode, feel free to check out some of our others. Thanks for watching RedZone to EndZone.